Hello, Kimmy. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great, and except I'm in Facebook jail yet again. But how's my boy Eric? How you doing? I love you.
Erik says, I love you too, Mom. I'm doing great.
Awesome. Hey, Eric, is it a person or people who are reporting my content, like a dog playing with a toy, as abusive, or is it just my posting habits that are triggering some algorithm?
He's saying it's both.
Okay. All right.
It's both.
I wouldn't doubt it. Okay, so you and Eric, but probably you mostly, Kim, brought up a really interesting topic. We're going to talk about how the consciousness of children being born today is different and in what way. And hopefully we can bring up how we can, how connected they are with the other side and how we can sort of preserve that connection, etc. So, in other words, how not to screw them up. So, fire away. Tell me about these children being born today and their differences.
Okay, so Eric's starting off in, although they might carry a higher light quotient than they did in the past,
What do you mean? What is that?
they're carrying a larger amount of light within their field than was previously possible because the
Oh,
planet is greater. So they're able to do that. But what he's saying is it's really not so much all that different. It's just that the veil is thinner now, and that the babies being born today are going to be less likely to forget because what he's saying is the baby is born, they are very, very conscious. They know what they're being born into. They are still connected to the spiritual world. They can see their little playmates from the other side and guides and stuff. And he's telling me that's a lot of times when you see a baby looking up, smiling, or talking to someone off in the corner, that's what they're actually doing.
and when they have imaginary friends, right?
Imaginary friends, that's
Like, yeah, like Michelle had some friend called Riri Coslin. Eric, who was that? Or was it anything? But she was like three, maybe.
he's saying it was a a playmate from the other side,
Oh, a guide or just a friend or,
a friend, a playmate.
oh, that's so sweet. Okay, go on.
It was somebody he was finishing up. It was somebody who was going to be incarnating soon.
Oh,
And so once Michelle started losing contact with him, that was actually what happened. It wasn't that she lost contact, it's that other child, spirit child, incarnated.
I see.
So what he's saying is when a baby's born, they're naturally very connected to the other side, and they start when in those first few months when they're sleeping so much. It's when they're letting go of the spiritual world and making a firmer connection into the physical world. And so initially they start off where they're real connected to God, then they kind of break away from that connection and they connect usually into the mother. That's what reminds them the most of the creator source energy. So what he's saying is as the veil thins, these babies are going to stop letting go of their spiritual connections. They're going to be able to maintain them. He's saying for one thing, it's going to be so obvious because the veil is thinner. He's saying uh, before a parent could say to a child that that's just your imagination, the child would believe it and they'd stop seeing it. Where he's saying that'll be different now. The child's going to keep seeing it and saying, but I see this, I see this.
Yeah. It's
Um,
undeniable to them. Are you kidding me? Don't put the wool over my eyes. I know what I see. So when did these babies start coming in? I mean, obviously it's probably been a slow progression, but about how long did this really ramp up? This different consciousness
he's
children.
making me feel like the early 2000s. They really
Oh,
started
okay.
in
Yeah.
growth, saying. And then so the other point he's bringing up though is he's wanting me to talk about it's actually much harder to be born than it is to die. It's a really difficult thing. And I actually remember the process of trying to enter my mother's body when she was in labor.
Oh,
And
wow.
so he's telling me, and this is pretty typical. So he's saying, go ahead and talk about it. But it felt like I was too big and she was too small, not in
Yeah.
size, but in consciousness and understanding.
Oh,
And
wow.
we just couldn't mesh, and it took more than
Yeah.
one time. I was thinking I didn't think I'd be able to do this, and I had guides working with me. But
Wow.
the consciousness of the baby entering the mother, there's a conflict there if the mother's really unconscious, because like my mother was very unconscious, and she thought that I was going to die. My mother did. So there was a lot of fear.
Yeah.
And um, the thing was, I couldn't understand how
Uh-oh, you froze on me.
and if
Oh,
I didn't make it this time, I'd come back and make it another time. So it seemed very foreign. And then just the act of merging with that energy that feels so cold and constricted when you're so warm and expansive.
it's
Yeah.
weird. So
So
what?
it was really hard. And so he's saying that the the soul, um, they often don't enter their mother's bodies till right at labor, right before labor, just
Yeah,
because
what's
of
the
the
percentage of
conflict
that?
of
I
the
mean,
energy.
yeah, well, what's the percentage of those who enter at conception, those who enter sometime in betwixt, and those who enter during labor, or at least right before?
He's making me feel like the labor one is the main, or
Yeah.
right before. That's like 85%.
Okay.
He's making me feel like it would be a very small percentage of those right away at conception, maybe like 1 or 2%.
Oh, and the rest of,
You got to realize the rest are in the middle, but he said you'd have to realize that they're in and out of the body. They're connected to it and they're not. They're
oh,
kind of like he's
yeah.
making it like a person who's in their dying process. You know how they're talking
Oh, yeah.
angels and guides, and then a few minutes later they're having a normal conversation with you. He says it's much like that.
All right. When they are when they're in and then they get out, what do they do while they're out? And is
Um,
there a cord attached to the mother
he's
silver
saying, yeah,
cord?
they have that silver cord, and it's in the baby of the body. He,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
he says they may go visit their playmates from the other side, and they may just be checking out their surroundings. He's bringing
Oh,
the point of a lot of people actually will see out of the corner of their eye, they might see a child running around in their yard before they're born, and they're
wow.
seeing their unborn baby. We saw one of our children and a grandchild before they
That is
were.
so cool.
Uh-huh. And he said anything going on with the mother, the baby feels.
Yeah.
And the baby,
Including the stress, if the mom's going through stress, if there's fighting in the relationship, that
mm-hmm,
affects them.
mm-hmm. He says
Does
it very much does.
yeah. Does it ever cause them to say, "Screw it, man, I'm going to go find somebody, some other couple," and then you have a miscarriage or stillbirth?
He says that's very, very rare. Because from the other side, when they're planning this incarnation,
Yeah.
um, they're aware. They're very much aware of what they're getting themselves into. And
Yeah.
they don't perceive it as a negative thing that they're coming in to fix all these problems or anything. They just perceive it as they're coming in for an experience.
Oh, yeah. Of course. Okay.
And they don't perceive it as being good or bad, right or wrong. So he says that's very infrequent because usually a soul that's choosing to come into that situation is doing it to, he said, if you come into a situation where there's trauma or abuse or something, he says that fast tracks your spiritual development because he says early on you're able to identify what it is you don't want, and that's stage one, and then you start looking towards what you do want.
I see. So, what else is different about these children, how can we recognize that, yep, I got one of those kids, or I have one of those grandkids? What do you see in them that's
Uh,
different than usual?
he says an increased level of energy. He's talking about that, which is sometimes mistaken for ADD,
Okay.
and that's not. He says a lot of times their eyes are real bright and sparkly. They have an increased sense of imagination. They're very joyful, that kind of thing.
Like Easton and Liam are both so happy, just happy babies. One's almost 3, one just turned 1. And they're, always smiling, always just full of love and happiness. Are those examples of these
Yeah,
kids?
he's saying, yeah, very definitely. Uh,
Okay. But
he's
not all kids coming in now are like that, are they?
No, but there's more and more of them.
Okay, okay.
We still have duality on this planet. Some people are still coming in to play a role that we would consider, there is no positive and negative really, but
Yeah.
that we would consider negative. And he said mostly that's to play roles for other people so that they can ascend.
Yeah, like a relationship villain. Like, hey, I
Mhm.
will come to this next life and betray you to give you the opportunity to learn about forgiveness, that sort of thing.
Right,
So they had
right.
to play the bad guy.
Hmm.
What percentage of kids coming in are these new consciousness kids, you think? I mean, now compared to like a decade ago, for example.
He's making me feel like 60 to 70%. It's
Wow.
pretty high and it's getting higher.
Yeah. What about a decade ago? What percent you think?
45 or 50.
Well, that's pretty good still. What about 20 years ago?
Probably more like 30, 35%, he's saying.
Okay, like 50 years ago.
8 to 10% is what
Wow.
he's
So, wow. So probably 30 years is when it started. Oh, what about 30 years? What percent there? Oh, did I already ask? I don't know. But anyway, so it really started ramping up around 30 years ago and it's logarithmically increasing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he's saying the more conscious we become on the planet and the more light on the planet, the more and more of them can come through. He's talking about the way to help them maintain that connection. And he's telling me, you know all about this. You know exactly how to do this. But he's saying like when a child does something that's pleasing or that's good, you don't want them thinking that they're doing that to please you or please their parents or please another person. You're wanting to help them learn how to please themselves and how to self-satisfy
Okay.
because spirit source is inside of them, it lives inside of them, and that's what they're aligning with when they're doing things that please themselves and that um,
Okay.
make them happy and joyful. If they look to another for acknowledgement, he says they actually decrease their power.
Oh, yeah. External direction versus self direction.
Right, right. So he's saying, yes, it is important that you want to acknowledge and tell them you're proud, but really emphasize how proud they must be of themselves and what a good job they did for themselves, that kind of thing.
Right. Like in the book I wrote, Hearing is Believing, How Words Can Make or Break our kids. One of those things is it's not ideal to say, I'm so proud of you, because then they're looking at you as an external beacon. Okay, I better do whatever, makes her proud. Instead, you just say, I bet you're proud. So they say, well, am I? So they learn to self-praise. So yeah, that's super important for self-empowerment and for raising kids who do the right thing, even when no one's looking. So tell me some other characteristics that a mother or a parent or a grandparent would recognize in these kids coming in to to make it click. Wow, he or she is one of them.
They may talk, Eric's going to past lives, they may talk about past lives, or they may have frequent dreams about past lives that they don't understand why they're having them.
Okay.
So, and Eric's saying that would be like something that's reoccurrent. You would know it. It would happen over and over and over
Okay.
again. Another thing he's bringing up, he's saying to talk about adoption.
Okay, go for it.
Um, because he's saying that the point he wanted to make is that when a child is born, its parents are selected beforehand. The child, selects the parents. It's an agreed upon thing. And so when there's an adoption, that's known. It's already pre-agreed upon.
Ah,
Uh, 95 to 99% of the time that child you're going to birth is going to be placed up for adoption and live with this other family that's already prearranged.
oh, I see.
And what he's saying is that always when that happens, that there is a guide from the birth family of the child that's been adopted, an ancestor or some type of guide that stays with that child throughout their life so they don't lose that connection with their biological family.
Okay, I see. And I remember how Arlene, when she was just little, would look behind her and run and squeal, and like somebody was chasing her. I'm sure it was Erik. So you probably would see things like that too. Them,
Yes, they would see
interacting with spirit.
and hear spirits and that kind of thing.
Uh,
Yes.
do is there Are there special abilities that these kids demonstrate?
Well, he said there are abilities that all people have, but they'll be the ones that show them first, like the psychic
Oh
ability,
yeah, yeah.
telekinesis, and that kind of thing. He
Uh-huh.
said there'll be natural born healers and that kind of thing.
Like Arlene, my granddaughter, she can read people's auras. So that would be an example, I guess.
Right, exactly. And now that you brought that up, Erik is saying that is kind of common with those kids. He's saying that they would like have the ability to recognize if a person was telling them the truth or not. And
Ooh.
he's saying even from an age of 12 to 24 months, they can see it in their facial expressions. He said because they're gathering all this data and they know when um, he said they're able to make, this is what he's showing me. At first, it starts out on, they may see the colors around the aura darken or get smaller or something if they're lying. He said it would start out at that as that. And he said then sometimes as they grow a little older, they're not as, their third eye is maybe not as active, but they will have recognized, okay, when that person lies and their colors go bad, their facial expressions also go bad. They can no longer look you in the eye while they're
Oh
talking.
yeah. So
So
they
those
can
little
it
kids, they're
yeah,
bright.
they can intuit from body language, I guess.
Right.
So do they have uh the ability for telepathy at all?
Yes, they do. He said it's very strong in some.
Wow. I mean, more than
Uh,
everybody has those kind of
yeah,
powers. What about telekinesis?
yes, and he's saying that in the future coming up, that'll be more and more. But back to the telepathy thing, he's just reminding me of something that happened when my youngest daughter was small, and he's saying to talk about this because this is pretty common. Um, she's sitting on my lap, I'm brushing her hair, and I think, oh, I wish I would have grabbed a, I'm going like this. I wish I would have grabbed a ponytail holder. As soon as I thought it, she jumps off my lap, goes and grabs one and hands it to me.
Wow.
Saying that is very, very common.
Yeah.
And what his point in this is if the parents recognize that and kind of play with it and encourage it, that it'll develop stronger in the children.
Yeah, I remember I woke up one morning and Michelle, she must have been about 8, 7, and we shared our dream from that night, and it was exactly the same. It was weird too because she told it first. Sorry, getting over something. But we were on the bow of a ship, and all these little bitty red-eyed slider turtles were scrambling around. We were trying to keep them from falling into the ocean. It's like, that is too weird that we had the same dream. So what was that about?
He said you guys, you just hooked up in your sleep, basically,
Yeah,
and
I figured.
had the same dream together. He said it was just a mutual loving experience between a parent and a child.
And red-eared
But
sliders.
or spiders or turtles?
Sliders.
Sliders. Okay.
Red-eared slider turtles, little bitty turtles. Well, I guess they get big. Anyway, so this flora, you were talking about how their third eye sort of doesn't work as well after a while. Is that because of fluoride in the toothpaste?
That's because that's part of it. But he's saying more, it's just our society. But that's going to
Oh,
switch
oh,
because so often we tell people, well, you can't do that. That's impossible. Or
yeah.
they're made fun of if they say something, you know, having psychic abilities. He says, then the other thing he's saying, it can be more difficult for these children too because they are so much more sensitive that, how kids might get bullied at school,
Yeah.
verbally. These kids, they don't even have to have that happen because if some other kid is thinking things about them, they're picking it up. So they're insulted without someone even speaking it. So can be
Oh,
a little bit harder for them.
oh gosh. All right. So do they heal quicker
They heal
than?
quicker.
Yeah, I had a feeling. Maybe I channel that. What about their aura? Are their auras different than the other
He said
kids?
it's brighter, it's more lively. And
Okay.
saying the reason they heal more quickly and the reason their auras are more lively is because they carry a higher vibration, so it's much harder for a physical disease to take hold.
Oh, I see. Because
They
I
have,
mean, light is healing energy, right?
they have such a higher vibration, and he said even if they did catch some virus or something, those are the kind of kids that are going to get over it really quick and break.
Yeah,
Someone who doesn't have enough as much light in their field, it would drag on and on and on.
I see. Do any of them come in as walk-ins? To say, step aside, I'm coming in, incoming. I
He
mean,
says
more than
that
usual.
that can happen. He says no more than usual, no more than whatever percentage of the population would be walk-ins anyways. He said it's no more than usual. He said it's probably a little less usual because the soul of that child just hasn't been here very long. It's usually
Ah,
he's making me feel like a walk-in is usually someone who's a little bit older, who's experienced more life before they would be ready to walk out and have another soul walk in.
okay. That brings me to my next question. Um, okay, say Easton is one of these special kids, and he has more light, etc. Could he still have had an incarnation where he wasn't that way? Like he could have been a murderer or, just I don't know.
Absolutely, because we've been all things. We've been, things that we consider not good and things that were very elevated
So how do they get more light? How does that happen? Technically speaking,
through experience usually.
they
Through the
don't go to source and say, "Hey, give me another chunk of that light." I'm.
Well, usually it's from experiences in previous lifetimes, unless there's a new soul that's just coming in for, brand new, but they've had these experiences in other lifetimes
Okay,
that have propelled them to have this advanced knowledge.
I see.
So maybe they were a murderer in some other life, and so now they really understand and have compassion, so they're bringing compassion in through this life.
I see. I know, like I was told, I can't remember how, that Arlene was split off directly from source. She had not had any incarnations, but she had observed many other people's incarnations. So I guess that can happen. Or
That is true. There is a percentage. children that it's their first incarnation. But then I'm wondering, did they have incarnations on other planets? Is that what he's
Yeah, I
talking
don't know.
about?
Let's ask him, Eric. What does that mean? I mean, can you actually have? I mean, there's no time, so it makes it very difficult. But let's take Arlene's case. What
That's
what
I'm at,
happened there?
oh yeah, he is saying she's had incarnations on other planets,
Ah,
and then like eons and eons and eons ago, and spent much time with Source in between those, this whatever her last planetary lifetime was, and she really spent an amount of time with Source, being one with Source, before she came into the human experience. So this is, he's
I see. That makes sense.
this is her first
Yeah.
incarnation on Earth as a human. But she
Ah,
had incarnations in other planets, other higher life forms, that kind of thing.
any particular star system?
I heard Sirius right away. If
Okay,
you're saying it right. Yeah.
but and not the others like Pleiadian, Arcturian. Just pretty much serious. Are you? I'm going to go up to her and say, "Are you serious?"
Hmm. He's saying she has been on other systems, but the Syrian one was her favorite and most prevalent one.
Oh, I think her mother. They said Eric said that she was mostly Syrian too. So I can't
That
remember.
would make sense.
That wouldn't make sense. Okay, let's go on and talk about how to keep from screwing these kids up, to have just their treasures. How do we encourage that to grow instead of squelching it and just like a flame dousing it out with water?
What Erik is saying is really teach them to watch their feelings and honor them, and to know if something feels good and if something does not feel good. Teach them, or he's not even saying teach them because it's a natural thing, but he's saying don't squelch their intuition, build upon it. Like if they see something and they say their tummy hurts, talk about that and talk about how that can be your intuition telling you that that's not a good thing for you. You know, if it makes
Yeah,
you feel or easy or something like that, that's telling you to take another look. He's saying really never ever say anything or do anything that would diminish their power or make them feel like they couldn't trust themselves. He's saying, of course, as children, they don't have all the skills. You have to teach them, but you have to teach them. He says you have to help them remember not to let go of their power and not to let other people influence them and tell them how to be. Really teach them how to be authentic. He's saying
yeah. How
how
to
to
be
be true to themselves.
emotionally honest to with others, but also with themselves, to make sure that BS meter inside they can feel like, I'm trying to rationalize this, or whatever. Of course, that's when they're a little older. But I think it would be a good exercise with kids once they can understand, to have them think of something like bad, like a nightmare. How does it make you feel inside? Describe where you feel what and how, and then think of something like an ice cream cone and how does that make you feel? It's like to get them to learn how to take inventory of the way they feel in their body, because their bodies are going to speak for their soul, so to speak. I mean, would that be a good
Yeah,
idea?
he was what you were saying, and he was saying, yep, you said you're onto something, Mom. And when he's saying you could complete that with, okay, how did that bad dream make you feel? Well, then show them how they can reach for that next best feeling. Okay, that was a dream. You don't have to still have it anymore. That happened a long time ago. It's not going to happen anymore. Let's talk about what a fun dream would be. Let's switch that to a fun dream. Tell me about a fun dream you've had. And
Hmm.
show them how to switch their way of thinking so they're not like stuck in that negative for lack of a better term, that unwanted moment. That
Yeah. Yeah.
he's also saying the biggest thing is you can help to help these kids is to not let them go into a place of fear. Help them to feel safe. Let them help them to understand that fear is an illusion.
Yeah. And how do you do that?
Don't
Can
give
you
up with it.
can you give me an example, Erik?
Well, they're afraid to go to school. They're afraid of
Yeah.
what might happen. And
Yeah.
just by teaching them, well, no, you're projecting something into your future, and you could actually create it by fearing it. So just to tell them just to think of what are the things you love about going to school. Is it recess? Is it playing with your friends? Is it lunchtime? Whatever it is, art class, music class, whatever, and get them to focus on those things. Just help them just to keep shifting their perspective, because what he's saying is if you can help them to see and hold on to those things that are like for a better future, a better outcome, they can create it. Because if they get fixated on, oh, this happened yesterday, it was bad, they keep recreating it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he's saying help them to not get fixated on it and to quickly shift into something that does feel better.
Yeah. I probably would not say if you think bad thoughts, you'll create that. I would say think good thoughts so you can create that instead of focusing on the
Right,
fear
right.
aspect of
He's
it.
saying that's a better way to say it.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I would do.
Especially with a younger child. But
Yeah.
he said you could kind of introduce that as they got older.
And yes,
For
exactly.
example,
Yeah.
this happened. Well, that was because, maybe because they were having a bad day and they weren't connected to source, and so they weren't listening. And so that's, he said as they get older, you can add that in.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
And that would be necessary, I would think. Now, suppose they're at lunch in elementary school and they say, oh, I talked to my dead Uncle Erik the other day, and they get laughed at. What do you tell them? You tell them, hey, those kids just aren't there yet. They don't know about this kind of stuff. This is real. You have a very special gift. I want you to honor. I mean, what do?
Eric's
Smack
saying,
them in the face.
Eric's
Punch
saying
them in the throat.
yeah,
I'm kidding. I'm
that's
kidding.
exactly what you said, not the smacking them in the face, though.
No. No.
What you said exactly.
Yeah.
Um, and he's just saying, um, just to teach them, just to flood people with love,
Yeah.
and it'll stop.
That's good. That's very good.
Yeah.
So, and I guess you could practice with them. Oh, let's see. Let's read people's auras. What's that? Things like that. So you can sort of show support for that particular gift, for example, and say, wow, that's so cool. Not everybody can do that. Would that be a good idea?
Mm-hmm.
Or, hey,
Yes.
let's talk to Erik. What's Erik saying now? And let's ask him questions. What about that?
He's saying, yeah, all those things would work, but he's also saying, there are just going to be some people that are just so unconscious that if you talk to them like that, they wouldn't have any other choice but to think you were crazy.
No, I'm talking about once you know your kid is
Right,
special.
right. No, but I mean, your kids at school talking to other
Oh,
kids.
no. Things, they're not ready. They're not ready. Don't talk about it. They're not ready. And they will be, but they're not.
He's just saying to help them learn discernment skills so that they know who they can talk to and who they can't. Is what he's
Yes.
saying. Yeah.
Oh, good. And they could feel that, because when somebody made fun of you saying that, how did it make you feel? What did you feel before you were about to? Because I feel that. I feel weird inside when I'm about to have somebody listen to Erik's EVP or something. I feel, oh no, no. And so abort. So
Right.
should you ask them about other lives? Like, oh, tell me about, what kind, who was your mommy, the last life, whatever.
He says if it's appropriate and if they bring it up, yes, definitely.
But never if they don't bring it up. I mean, can you say, have you been in another family before this life, or before you were born, where were you? Or
He said you can. It wouldn't be detrimental, but what he's saying. He's making me feel like you just get a lot more out of it if it just came
yeah, yeah.
just from the child. He said because otherwise, he says kids want to please you so much. He said they might just start um, kind of fabricating
Oh
things.
yeah, I can imagine.
Necessarily
Yeah, like
taking
Lucas when he was I guess 4 or 5, he had this high fever and he started rambling on about how he was this little girl in Jamaica and how he died and all that stuff. So, and little boys won't say that they're little girls. Okay, they
yeah.
usually don't make that up. So, anything else before we close? Anything? Any other instructions? Anything you want to say about how different these kids are, or about how we should, respect and encourage these special aspects to grow?
Well, the first thing Eric was saying when you were talking about Lucas, he's saying, Mom, the reason why that is because when a child is sick, there's healing brought to them. And so then in that healing
Ah,
from their guides and their angels, they're picking up spiritual insights. And he said that absolutely was his past life.
yeah,
So he was remembering because he was sick and because healing energy was flowing to him. He wanted me to bring that up. But he's just saying the main thing is teach children about their feelings and how to honor their feelings. And if something feels good, that's something you want to continue with. If it doesn't feel good, then you want to look at why. And he says, of course, as adults, you're going to have to help them sort those things out. But he says, your job as the parent and the adult is to give them the tools to sort it out. They'll be able to do it on their own.
right. And we, as parents, and grandparents, need to use our intuition, um, to decide how to communicate what to these children as well.
He's saying when, yeah, and especially when to talk and when not to talk, when to bring it up,
Right.
not to bring it up. He's just saying that it's just really to trust your feelings and your intuition on that.
Yeah,
That's the main thing.
exactly. All right. Well, I don't have anything to say else
I
except I
don't,
love you guys both. Thank you so much. If anything else to add, guys, before we close?
Eric says no. That's it.
All righty.
Mom.
What?
He says I love you, Mom.
Oh, I love you too, baby. Bye. Bye, peeps out there.
Bye bye. Take
Hit the
care.
subscribe button. Bye bye.
Bye bye.